Hello. Okay, it's me again. I'm going to try and get a little bit better with social media because the truth is that I don't like emailing people. I feel I'm so overwhelmed with email these days, and I end up not reading anything and deleting it. And it's kind of shocking how often people email. I only email when I really have something to say. So, not that I won't ever email my list again. Of course, I will at times, but um, not to share things like this. So this is a weird post that I haven't prepared anything ahead of time at all. And so if I stumble through my words, sorry. um, I'm a really late comer to listening to podcasts, but some podcasts have come to my attention. And I've been sort of listening to a bunch of episodes, really out of order, things like that, just because I'm interested in the guest that is being interviewed. And I don't want to name the podcast because I don't want to put negativity out there in any form. In fact, I like the podcasts very much, and I like listening to the episodes. But this particular podcast kept referring to this particular guest over and over again. And I finally got curious and was like, all right, I guess I will listen to this podcast. And I realized that not only was it one episode, they apparently this guest had so much to share that they gave him two episodes. So there was a part one and a part two. And this person was talking from a physicist standpoint. And if anybody knows me, I like scientific explanations for things, for how energy works, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's also great because I think that scientists coming to the table and saying, oh, yeah, this stuff is really true, and talking about human consciousness is great. It just brings more people into the discussion who otherwise would have been skeptics. And by the way, the biggest people, spitting on this kind of work have historically been scientists. So, that's great that we have some people finally on board. Although, thanks for being responsible for quashing a lot of it over the years. But what I'm seeing is a lot of people acting like they are just discovering this new thing and it's real and they're telling you about it. And what I wish would be said more is, guess what? Indigenous cultures, um, mystics, shamanic practitioners, shamans, um, psychics were right. And here's why. But you never hear them say that. I don't want to say never, but this particular person who really did seem to be revered by the podcast hosts, I should say, and this person has done more than one podcast, um, uh, really didn't have any questions for the person. They seemed almost overwhelmed, but also didn't call him on some things. And I had some really hard problems, and I I did write the podcast a note very politely. But one of the things that struck me is this person declared scientist himself to be the high priests of Western culture. So the first thing is anyone declaring themselves a high priest instantly makes you want to throw up a little. It's not a really polite thing to say, but no. And you should be highly suspicious of anyone declaring themselves a high priest, not just a priest, by the way, but a high priest. The second is that, in Western culture, certainly in the United States, unfortunately, science, belief in science is really being challenged these days. But the other thing is that they went on to say that Western culture is global culture, which I think is also kind of, in a word, a gross thought to have. So maybe people think that's controversial, whatever. But anyway, it's sort of the whole thing kind of sickened me. And also acting like this was this person's grand discovery. No. So I applaud the fact that someone has come out and is openly talking about this, who has a scientific background and is well thought of in the scientific community and can articulate concepts in ways that I think are that more folks will look into it and will accept it. That's what we need. We need those things. However, um, not acknowledging that you're not the first person is really like a very Christopher Columbus moment, right? I've discovered the Americas. Guess what? They were already discovered. So good for you. We've all been, understanding that this is going on. So it just really made me crazy a little bit. So what I want to say is, take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. Take in the stuff that's interesting and have it spark your curiosity and go on to learn more. Absolutely. But maybe look into more than just one person. If you want to look into someone who is a really well-known physicist, for example, talking about shamanic work, I can definitely recommend Claude Poncelet. He wrote a book called The Shaman Within. I was lucky enough to take a class with him on death and dying and elderhood, which was the last class he taught before he passed away. But he was a really interesting and ethical human being. Also had a one-on-one discussion with him even before having taken the class. Really actually asked a lot of questions about ethics in shamanic practice, because that is something that unfortunately we do have to think about. And we should use our discernment in who it is that we want to learn practices from, and how we want to go about doing that. So I just want to throw that out there. I did write a respectful letter. They probably think I'm a lunatic, but I did write a respectful letter saying, I think you made a mistake in allowing two episodes for this person. I don't think this is a guru to sit at the feet of. There's definitely, we all learn things from each other. We really do. And I will say this is a very brilliant human being, but I think they need to dial it back a little and they need to go inward a little bit. So, and maybe do a little personal work, right? Okay, so that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. I am throwing out someone that a book that I think people would really enjoy if you want to hear a physicist's point of view who is also very respectful of where these concepts originated and came from, even, while talking in terms that might feel real comfortable for the rest of the population. So I hope you're well. That's my hackneyed 2 cents. And I don't know. Is it Tuesday? Happy Tuesday. Thanks.